Hey there, I'm glad you're here. You want to advance your character to play raids, incursions, and legendary difficulty missions. I'm super excited to talk about that. Division 2 is an excellent, sophisticated game. The devs or developers have put a lot of thought into the build system. Many players try to level up by looking for videos on YouTube for that perfect or holy grail of builds. But even after copying them, they're unable to replicate the success of the content creators. Did they miss something? Did they misunderstand something? The build system has so many choices and aspects. How do these all work? If you are wondering about these questions, remember that the game is very complex and sets up many different scenarios. Someone's best build in some situations may be the worst in others. Even if you duplicate their build perfectly, enemies will still outflank, overwhelm, get behind, and take you down. There will always be an element of risk and danger to the game. So, how should you approach builds? I strongly recommend looking at the underlying build system and exploring how it works. I encourage you to watch this video, even if you already know this, because this video series will provide a system of thinking to accompany the build system. These videos are designed to work together to give you a foundation of strategic thinking. The videos that come later in this series will build on top of this foundation. The best way to think about builds is to first focus on the job that needs to be done. The build you set up supports your goals, fighting methods, and objectives. It helps your tactics and playing style, which, in turn, improves the team's chances of successful outcomes. With that in mind, it's essential to understand the underlying build system. If you understand how the devs think, you'll know how to create, optimize, and maximize your builds. You likely already know that the build system gives you 3 primary strengths. They're color-coded. Red is about weapon damage, blue is about armor, and yellow is about skill tiers. As you can see, your character wears 6 pieces of gear. So, what you have as the core attributes and how many of them will determine your strength. For example, if you have a high DPS or damage per second build for raids, you may want 5 or 6 red cores. If you're a tank, you'll want armor cores. The more, the tankier you will be. And suppose you're doing a healer build, status effects, or a skill build. In that case, your electronic skills will scale in power and efficiency with how many skill tiers you have on your character. I'm not saying you must have all 6 of a particular core. You might have 5 of one, with the last being something different. That can be a wise choice if you remember what you're giving up in exchange for what you get out of it. The game's developers have made it challenging if you want to bake your cake and eat it. Some trade-offs are worth it, while others give you new strengths but new weaknesses. So, let's take a closer look at this backpack. You'll see its core attribute here again, and its attributes. As you can see, these are all represented by bars to indicate whether or not they are at maximum. The more complete these bars are, the better their performance. Here is an empty gear mod slot. You can insert gear mods as needed. I'll elaborate on them in another video. If the bars are full, like on this mask, we call them max rolled. This is the state you want your gear, even weapons, to be in. If you get one and are lucky, yours might be God rolled. But sometimes loot drops aren't at maximum at all. In other words, they need work, and that can require significant materials and resources. Those are hard to come by, so spend them wisely. You can see from these icons that I've had to spend optimization materials to max out these bars to enable this mask to perform at its fullest potential. Fortunately, these attribute bars were already 2/3 full, so it didn't require a lot of optimization resources. Remember that resources are hard to come by, but you need them for optimization and recalibration. I'll cover this topic in another video. A note about attributes. They help the gear item do its work, so it can work with the other items in your loadout to do your build's job. Depending on what you need your build to help you achieve, you may want them the same color as the function of your build. What attributes you recalibrate or swap out, and which ones you keep on all your pieces will determine your overall lethality and effectiveness in the field. Now, you're probably wondering why I even have this backpack. It's not perfect, and its attributes are not at the maximum, right? Even if max rolled, the attributes don't help my DPS build, as you can see. Sometimes the game drops imperfect gear, and no matter how much you recalibrate and swap out attributes for ones you want, it's not worth it. This is where many players make the mistake of spending resources on imperfect gear that in the long run won't get them where they want to be. I'm basically using this temporarily to hold me over until I can farm for a better piece that will serve me more effectively in the long run. As you can see, this piece has blue, red, and yellow attributes. That means this rainbow roll offers too many things, but isn't good with any one thing. In a higher difficulty mission, you will most likely use an assault rifle or AR, or a submachine gun or SMG, because you need DPS. The goal of the game is not to simply survive the enemy, but instead to kill the enemy, and do so as quickly as possible. Will this headshot damage serve that purpose? Well, I'm not a headshot guy, that's for sure. It can be challenging to score headshots at moving enemies from a distance. I need to take enemies down quickly. If the team relies on me to take down enemies as quickly as possible, and if I'm not set up and practiced as a sniper with a marksman rifle build, I won't waste time trying to take advantage of headshot damage. Considering that tactical perspective, even if I recalibrate the headshot damage for something else, the backpack won't fully meet my DPS needs. The game allows you to recalibrate one attribute slot only. Once you've recalibrated a slot, you're stuck with that particular slot. In the future, you can swap anything into that slot if the attribute is archived in your library. The game will not let you recalibrate a second slot. So is it worth spending materials and resources to max out the remaining attributes? Well, for this piece, no, it's not worth spending valuable resources on, and definitely not worth adding expertise to this piece. In another video, I'll cover recalibration, optimization, expertise, and the library. Those topics address how to maximize your gear and increase its capabilities even more. However, if I make sound tactical and practical choices in the field, I can still use this piece as a hold me over until I get a much better one to replace it. So, to wrap up this topic, think of this series of videos as a means to strengthen your concepts and understanding of the build system. With effective build choices, tactics, and cooperation, you and your team can be a force to be reckoned with. The videos that come after this one will incrementally build upon this, so I look forward to seeing you in them. So, until next time, peace out and stay strong.